Live. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. We have a lot to cover tonight. It is the Wild West out there right now in the disclosure community. Disclosure just went into overdrive, and I mean that there is so much happening right now. It's impossible to keep up with. We've put together a slideshow to go through all these Epstein files, but there, even beside the Epstein files, there's just an enormous amount of information happening right now. Definitely, we are definitely living in historic times. So, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. A few quick announcements before we get started. We do have a few spots left for our Hawaii conference in April 20th through the 24th. If you are interested, I would secure your spot as soon as you can. I think there's 13 tickets left. You can find all the information at journeytotruth.online. And if you are interested in watching our new Secret Space Program documentary, which kind of does pertain to some of what is in the Epstein files, you can go do so on our Patreon, which is linked below, or you can find it on our website, journeytotruth.online. And it'll be available there until it hits the streaming platforms in a few months. And that time frame is still up in the air and it's out of our hands, but we are excited for that. And we will let you know when that happens. But I don't know. There is so much to cover. What do you think about what's going on right now, Aaron? I mean, it's wild out there.
It is wild. It's exciting. It's this is disclosure. This is the great awakening and the great revealing and whatever all the terms, like this is we're seeing it's like every other week there's some huge thing or even more often sometimes there's some huge thing dropping and that's uh that's a massive red pill, for the public. And even though this stuff for us is like yeah, we know all this, but it's being dropped to the masses in a way that's exciting, that's proving, so much that we've been talking about for so many years now, that we've been ridiculed, we've been laughed at, we've been called crazy conspiracy theorists or
Literally deplatformed for this stuff. Yeah.
deplatformed, censored. We personally have had many of our platforms deleted and censored in different ways, videos deleted. And now it's all coming out that this has all been true all along. And the very people that have been controlling the narratives of society and the mainstream media outlets and, everything else, politicians, celebrities, are all a part of this network. And we're seeing the truth of who these people are, what their agendas are. Yeah, it's exciting times.
Right.
Just don't get caught up in the fear and realize like this is a part of the awakening and the disclosure.
Yeah, 100%. So there's a lot to get through, and we're just going to dive in. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to start this slideshow and just kind of cover some of this stuff. We intentionally are not going to go into some of the really dark stuff just because it's not necessary. You can, if anyone wants to, you can go look through these files yourself, and it's absolutely horrific. Even describing it could traumatize somebody in some cases. So we're not going to or we're not going to put really any emphasis too much on the darker stuff. I mean, it's all there. We will brush on it, but we're not going to go deep into it. So this is just a thumbnail for the video. Disclosure just went into overdrive. So this is a tweet or an X post, whatever you want to call them nowadays, from Ian Carroll. Remember, every single crime documented in the Epstein files was done on behalf of Israel. They want you to focus on the scum that abused the girls. Remember that every single act of abuse was part of an Israeli blackmail ring founded, funded, and designed for Israel to gain control, and it worked. And if you guys stick around to the end of this video, what's his name? Alex Hamilton, I think he shared a video saying this could get me killed, and it's a 15-minute compilation of basically the proof that everything Ian Carroll just said in this tweet is true. And this entire thing, our entire reality is essentially an illusion that, like Carrie Cassidy says, they're faking our reality in the sense that like everything that we see is the result of some form of blackmail. And that's kind of what the Epstein files highlight.
And by the way, just for clarification, Israel is more than just a normal country, and it has nothing really to do with Judaism at all. They use Judaism as a shield. You might hear the term Zionism. Zionism really is just a nicer term for a satanic cult, essentially. And that's who these people actually are. That if you look at who created Israel, it's the Rothschilds. And the Rothschilds are part of this satanic cult that has been behind the scenes controlling things for a long time. And that's what we mean by Israel. We don't mean, it has nothing to do with normal Judaism whatsoever. They just kind of use that as a shield and as an excuse to play the victim whenever they do bad stuff and you call it out at all or you do anything about it. They'll say you're being anti-Semitic. Oh my God, we need to now, censor you or destroy you or do this or that. So they use it as a shield, they use it as an excuse. And, David Icke has been talking about this for like 40 years. And Ian Carroll just happens to be one of the latest kind of big names out there calling it out. Candace
Right.
Owens does as well, many others. But yeah, that's what we mean, just for clarification, by Israel.
Yeah, thank you for that. And who is Jeffrey Epstein? Most people probably know, some people might not know. This is just a great, analysis and summary of kind of who he was and what his involvement was in everything you just explained, or is potentially, because I don't know, I think this dude's still alive. Do you think I mean, at this
I think
point,
he
after
is.
these files came out, and there's a lot of people that are convinced that he's absolutely still alive.
I mean, if you look
So,
into his supposed death, to me it was obvious they sneaked him away out of there, and then the death was faked, and you could see like the body that they showed that was supposed to be his dead body was clearly like a mannequin or a different body altogether. It was not him.
right,
So I think he was used to get information out of because he was so connected to everything. So I think he's still alive.
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I saw, I forgot what it was recently. Somebody was showing pictures of his brother or Hillary Clinton, somebody's brother that looks almost identical to Epstein. And they're saying that that was the guy that was like the body double. Anyway, let's
Could
play
be.
this. Yeah, let's play this.
Do you think Jeffrey Epstein was a spy?
I believe very strongly he was a spy, yes.
And who do you think he was working for?
The Israelis. I'm confident it was the Israelis.
Why?
Jeffrey Epstein is kind of the stereotypical example that they give you in training for what's called an access agent. This is a different kind of recruit. So, for example, if you're a foreign intelligence service and you want information, like close-in information from a former president, from the CEO of the biggest company in the world, from a member of the British royal family, you're not going to recruit these guys. You're not going to recruit Bill Clinton or Bill Gates or Prince Andrew. So you do the next best thing. You recruit somebody who has regular access to them. And that person that you recruit is going to need to make these people feel comfortable and appreciated. And so you give him plenty of money. So he has this house on an island, or he has the whole island. And maybe you bring in young girls, you get them in compromising positions, just in case you need to use what's called compromat, compromising pictures. We know now that Jeffrey Epstein's house on the island had video cameras, hidden video cameras in literally every room, including the bathrooms. Why? Why would he care what was going on unless it was to use that information against people?
Do you think Jeffrey Epstein was a...
All right, so that just, I think that explains perfectly who he was and what was happening there. So,
Yeah. So to sum it up, he was used to gather intelligence, gather information, and to compromise lots of people to control them and
right.
manipulate them, and
And I think the key word is he was used too.
yeah,
Um,
he was a
I,
puppet for sure.
I'm
He was a
sure he
puppet.
wasn't any better than the next guy involved, but
It's not like he was
there's
acting on his own
right,
volition here. Like he was a very highly controlled asset slash puppet
right. I mean,
that was forced to do all this stuff. Not saying that excuses any of it, absolutely not, because I think the only reason he was chosen in the first place is because of the nature of who he was already. Probably from a bloodline family, anyway.
right. The photo of him dead, Katie Rain says the photo of him dead did not have the tattoo on his arm. The original always have the tattoos. So yeah, and we're gonna move on because there's a lot to get through. Well, now we know he was an Israeli spy. This is one of the emails, literally from Joshua Bach, whoever that is, and it's subject to benefits of deception. And this is to Jeffrey Epstein. So Beyond the fact that deception is a behavior that attempts to manipulate the mental states, especially beliefs and goals of other agents towards that the deceiver believes to be counterfactual. Excuse me. There is the question of the function and benefits of deceit. Deception does not only include malicious lying and exploitation, but also humor, didactics, politeness, tact, consideration of possible fallacies in my own current beliefs, and so on, and thus plays many beneficial roles in human interaction and cooperation. Today, I had an interesting conversation with a student. She asked, starting out from the context of ubiquitous surveillance and post privacy. Imagine everybody knew everybody else's thoughts all the time. Would this increase or reduce the amount of strife between people? We could generalize this question. If humans were incapable of any kind of deception, would the net effect on human interactions, the functioning of organizations, or on societies a positive or a negative one? Obviously. Obviously, the impossibility of knowing betrayal and fraud will yield some positive effects. On the other hand, the need to accept and forgive traits, ideas, and intentions of people that are culturally or psychologically very different will put a heavy strain on relationships. Furthermore, it might become harder to forge and maintain alliances with and against other players, possibly resulting in fewer gains through competition and specialization. So anyway, it goes on. This is the benefits of deception, how they literally are deceiving us into a divide and destroying relationships, stopping us from uniting and creating alliances. So we can't, this is part of the entire game. This has been going on. This is an email from 2013.
Yep. They kind of lay it out here.
Right. So anyway, this is the type of stuff they were talking about. And then if you guys are interested in the actual, I actually meant to put this slide earlier, the actual Epstein files, you can do so at justice.gov/Epstein. And you have to, prove that you're 18 years old and blah, 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 blah. But then,
Click yes.
yeah, just click yes.
And then there's a search bar.
Yeah, I'll actually click on this just to show you guys. So this is what it looks like. And don't search the top bar up here. That's just going to search the website. You have to
scroll down and then there.
Right. So you can search the full Epstein library here.
So keyword search. So you want to type in interesting keywords that you think might bring up some, whatever topic you're trying to kind of find.
Right. Like one we'll get into later, time travel.
Which I did, and I
sent Tyler, and we'll get into that later. But here you go. These are all emails. There's pages and pages of emails on time travel. Why? Why? And we're going to get into that later. But just to kind of show you what is, how to access these files and search for yourself. Okay, Trump is in the files thousands of times, and we're going to go into this. And we're not here. Anybody who follows this channel knows our stance on Trump and the White Hats and the alliance and everything that's happening. So this guy, and I'm not sure his name, you might know who he is, Aaron.
I forget his name, but he does a lot of funny, but like very videos showing the agendas and the ridiculousness of the stuff going on in a funny way. Usually, he's great. His videos are awesome.
So basically, what we're going to talk about here is that as much as people want to believe that just because Trump is in the files is that he's guilty, it's actually the exact opposite. And the more you dig, the more you find that out. In fact, there's emails proving that he refused to get a massage while he was at Mar-a-Lago. In fact, there's one email where it talks about him being a witness in basically the investigation of Jeffrey Epstein, so they can help capture him. Trump actually helped. He was a witness and actually aided in the capture of Jeffrey Epstein.
Exactly. He banned him from Mar-a-Lago a long time ago.
And
there's all these things that show that he wanted nothing to do with the guy, and he knew exactly who he was.
And we're going to get into
part of it.
Exactly. And we're going to get into a little more of this, but let's play this video really quick. It's kind of like it's just a funny take on how people are responding to the Epstein files right now and Trump's involvement.
Okay, this new Epstein email is kind of crazy. Look at this. Bill Gates was planning pandemic simulations with Epstein in 2017. Yeah, did you see the part about Trump and underage girls? Yeah, those are old allegations already discredited, zero evidence. He did it. Okay, whatever. Check this out. An email refers to the founder of TMZ as a good friend who could help with media coverage. A pedo ring was controlling the narrative through media. Not that this is something new, but it's kind of nice, but Trump is in the files. I thought we already settled that with the facts, but Trump is in the files. Epstein had exchanges on trans children and how to normalize it. This guy wasn't just trafficking girls. He was in talks to push gender ideology. Don't care, Trump is in the files. Epstein sent an email saying Ghislaine Maxwell's father got killed after trying to blackmail Israeli intelligence. Trump, in an email to someone, Epstein said, "I represent the Rothschilds." Trump is in the files. Epstein lived in the Vatican for a while, giving design directions. Trump, he was working to overthrow Putin. Trump is in the files. He's literally in a picture with boxes containing CIA documents. Trump. Okay, there are emails about murders staged as suicides, government cover-ups, money laundering, a black market of sex trade, presidents and prime ministers all over the world, Mossad, CIA. Epstein ran at the top of global power. He had influence there. These are things to be looked at. And let's be honest, you didn't care or ask for these files when Joe Biden was president and when he had them. And now, you suddenly care about the children and the victims. And the only name that's been totally vindicated here, yet you're trying very hard to weaponize these files against, is Trump. Exactly.
So good.
But that's, I mean, that's true. That's precisely,
It's so
and
accurate.
we're going to get into that because I see a lot of people posting this stuff with zero evidence backing their claims. It just aligns with their belief system and their hatred. So they just want it to be true. So they share it as true.
Exactly.
So here's a perfect example. This is an image that allegedly was verified in the Epstein files. And they're trying to claim that every time the White House, Trump, or anyone tries to make excuses for this effing pedo, share them on their feeds, all these disgusting boils need to be in prison. So you can fact check this yourself. You don't have to trust Snopes, which I don't recommend. You always do, but it's
They
been
are right
debunked.
sometimes, though.
Right.
Sometimes.
This photo's been debunked, and I did it myself. I ran the original photo through an AI detector, and it says the image you shared showing Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein standing in what appears to be a bedroom or room with Epstein's arm around the young female and a group of young children, some sitting on a bed in the foreground, plus a handwritten date like 7/7/97 or Trump, whatever, is not real. It is fake, specifically an AI generated image. This exact claim, or very similar versions of the photo, was fact-checked by Snopes in early February 2026, shortly after a large release of Epstein-related files by the Department of Justice in late January 26 sparked renewed online circulation of such images. Snopes rated it fake, noting clear signs of AI generation, including anatomical anomalies, Trump and some of the children having too few or too many fingers, and I zoomed in on it. Absolutely. The one kid has 6 fingers. Trump only has 4 fingers on one hand. That's a immediate red flag. It's AI. Other typical AI artifacts like inconsistent details and faces, lighting, or blending. And if you really zoom in on the picture, you can start to see a lot of anomalies, right? And this picture just doesn't seem to come up actually in the files. I tried to find, you try to find this stuff. So it is just a perfect example of how actual fake documents are being shared as true, and people aren't fact checking it themselves or looking into it. if they want it to be true, so they're sharing it as true, and that's not investigative journalism. That is confirming your bias, your belief system. Okay, so here's another one. There's a lot of people claiming that the mastermind of Q was Jeffrey Epstein. And it seems to stem from this video. In fact, I'll skip forward to this first before we play the video. This girl, Amber Monroe, I don't know who she is. You guys might be friends with her on Facebook. I don't know. She says, so the Epstein files revealed Epstein helped create QAnon. The PSYOP worked. MAGA voted in the very people QAnon was about. You can't make this shit up. And in fact, you can because you are.
Actually,
so-
you are literally making this shit up.
So everyone in the comments was asking for proof. Like, where's the proof? And she said, public statement announcement, if you come into these comments asking for proof, you're not going to get it in this post. Thinking I'm going to provide proof to every single lazy, illiterate fuck asking the same thing over and over is crazy work. Stop being intellectually lazy. Look at a post I posted yesterday that explains in detail. Search on Facebook, blah, 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 or better yet, do the work yourself and dig through the Epstein emails and documents, which she obviously didn't do because she would have found zero evidence.
Oh,
of
the
this.
irony.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, the irony.
She said, I don't care what you do, but commenting, asking for proof is only going to get you verbal abuse. Your choice. Either way, I'm not providing shit in this post.
How
So,
convenient.
and then somebody else shared it. Our friend Matthew Mornian shared it. He's not a Q guy. He shared this, and somebody asked him for proof, and he almost verbatim said the same thing. He's like, you have the world's information at your fingertips. You do the research. I don't have to provide any evidence. So these people are sharing things just based on their own hatred and belief systems without any evidence to support it, which is actually what they're claiming that Q has been doing the whole time. It's like they're doing the exact opposite. It's a projection. It's a
Right.
projection.
And then there's a bunch of people just sharing this without reading the files probably at all and doing any research just because they already want to believe this. And then they're like, see, I told you, and we see this happen on social media all the time, right?
Right.
Like people already want to believe something pops up on their feed that they already want to believe, and then they share it and they use that as the gotcha thing. And there's just kind of like this, they all feed off each other and,
Right.
yay,
So-
we can all hate on Trump and we were right, ha 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 ha, that whole.
So anyway, so she referenced this video. What did she say? She said,
yeah,
look at the
which is
look at the
hilarious.
post yesterday that explains in detail. So this is the only post on her page that was yesterday, and from when the day this was posted, that had anything to do with the Q thing. And it was this guy, and this is all it says. And I'm only going to play the first 40 seconds of it because the second half of it is just him kind of bashing Q. But this is
I mean,
this is
it's rough.
allegedly
It's a rough watch.
allegedly the proof that she's talking about.
The many horrific and nauseating things that we are continuing to learn from this latest release of files, there is also something incredibly significant that may be the key that unlocks a global psychological operation that you and I and everyone we know have all been affected by. Jeffrey Epstein exchanged several emails and had several meetings with Moot, the founder of 4chan, and within hours of one of those meetings, Pol was created. Pol is the birthplace of QAnon, the conspiracy theory at the heart of the MAGA movement, driving much of its cult-like devotion to Trump. Believers in QAnon receive their messaging and their information from someone who is codenamed Q, who claims to be an infiltrator of the deep state and began disseminating messages.
So anyway, it goes on to explain the Q operation. But
An
what we need to
infiltrator
highlight
of the
here
deep
is
state. So, I mean, there's already false things right off the bat being said. He's trying to claim, well, first of all, the whole proof that he has is that because the founder of 4chan was in there, that proves that Q was a part of, like there's no proof whatsoever. And number two, yeah. So I wasn't gonna say.
here. Let me just clarify. So basically, the Q operation came from 4chan. It was an anonymous message board that was essentially like on the, I don't know if it was on the dark web or whatever, wherever it was at first, but it was an anonymous message board used for people that were involved in the Epstein ring and all these trafficking and everything, but it was an anonymous message board that could be used by anybody,
By
right?
anybody. Right.
And the reason it was so effective is because it was truly anonymous. So you couldn't
Right.
trace back, you couldn't trace to whoever was leaving these messages. So it seems that the deep state absolutely created 4chan so they can have a private message board to do their dealings with the trafficking. But then somebody in the know or involved or whoever, double agent, whatever, they created Q and they started using this 4chan, this anonymous message board as a way to reach the people. So they were using the enemy's weapon against them to
Yeah.
expose them.
Yeah, it was clearly a white hat operation, which is military intelligence. I mean, you can see the terms. It's all military intelligence, clearly. So if it was fake, somebody had to have extensive knowledge of that to really do a really good job of faking being a legit thing. Number two, he's saying, oh, some guy that goes by Q claimed to infiltrate the deep state. No, that's not what Q is. Q is not claiming to be some guy that infiltrated the deep state. It's claiming to be what I just said, military intelligence. So the military, essentially, the white hats, whatever term you want to say, like the good guys in the military that already knew about the deep state. They didn't infiltrate it. Well, maybe they did as well, but it's not like he's like trying to act like it's one guy that claims to have infiltrated the deep state and then is like telling the world about the dirt on it. And that's so he misrepresents, and this is what they do, right? They misrepresent what the thing actually is, and then they tell you that misrepresentation, and it's supposed to sound stupid and ridiculous, and they hope you just believe that and run with that narrative without actually looking into Q yourself and realizing, oh, that's not what it actually is. This is what it actually is.
Right.
And there's
But
actually something to this. This is actually very real, not some bullshit, whatever they
yeah,
try
and
to.
then you see posts like this flying around the internet. So the Epstein files revealed Epstein helped create QAnon. The psyop worked. MAGA voted in the very people QAnon was about. You can't make this shit up. Um, and you
Right.
just see people sharing that as if this Amber Monroe girl did her research, right? And
Yeah, it's not research.
it's exactly. So in fact, if you type in QAnon, you can do all the digs you want on these files. It is nothing at all that you can find that proves it. There's only two, QAnon only comes up twice. And in fact, it's them talking about being in fear of Q. This email right here on the right is this person. It's almost the vibe I get from this email is that this person is very concerned that this QAnon thing on the internet is exposing them. And they're concerned on why pictures of their child is getting shared on the internet. We don't know who it is. But they wouldn't be talking about Q wouldn't be exposing the Epstein files if Epstein created Q. Like that's what this
Right.
highlights. And this guy Doc Holliday on X said, "Imagine still thinking Q is Mossad Israel operative. Q exposed Epstein 69 times, and the first post was on 11/11/2017. Israel's last for a reason." So I don't have to read through this email, but I can just for the sake of, I guess,
And
proof.
to me, this destroy, yeah, because then the other narrative that people, especially in the truth or whatever community, like to run with is like, oh, Q was a Mossad or a CIA or a deep state psyop to get everyone to think things were happening when they actually weren't, and to keep you docile and complacent, whatever. Except literally these emails and these files prove that Q was a major threat to them. So how can Q simultaneously be a major threat that they're worried about while it's their operation? Right? Does that make
Right.
any sense to
Yeah.
anyone? No, clearly
So
does not.
we don't know who this first email, but so if you type in QAnon on the files, you get two things that pop up, and this is one of them. And we don't know who it's to and from. It says, "Hello, I hope this email finds you well. I am writing because things have really revved up since Epstein's arrest. I was wondering if you ever found out if the FBI are looking into QAnon. I receive violent messages daily and I'm concerned for my family's safety. Hey, I've just been working on my own online security. I had a big success getting dozens of videos removed from YouTube because they included pictures of my baby. Anyhow, thank you, and I look forward to hearing if anyone on your side is working on this or Pizzagate. Thanks a lot." Sorry for the late reply. Has anything progressed since your last email? I will have to check with the office. I will have to check which office, if any, are investigating QAnon and perhaps refer this to them. I don't think the blank office is investigating this group. Hello, my name is blank. I am friends with blank. They passed along your email because I have found myself at the center of the QAnon conspiracy theory. It has become a very distressing situation, and I am especially worried as I have in blank. Q followers are harassing me and also posting images of blank as well as my friends, family members, and their kids. Here's an article and a link to a YouTube which shows a little bit of what's going on. So if the Q operation was created by Epstein, then why would these people be sharing this, having this conversation in the Epstein files, basically wondering why they're now being exposed by this thing called Q, and they don't
Right.
even know. And then
These are private emails, not meant to
right.
be seen by the masses. So you can't even use the, oh, they're just pretending. No, these are private emails saying these things.
So then the second thing that comes up is this 38-page article from The Atlantic called The Prophecies of Q. American conspiracy theories are entering a dangerous new phase. It does a wonderful job of breaking down Q, but then explains how it's a dangerous cult and blah, 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 blah.
So
But again,
it's a weird hit piece that,
yeah,
again, it's they try to control the narrative, right? This is what these people do. So the last thing they want is you actually doing your own research and coming to your own conclusions and looking at the source material and figuring out the truth. So what they do is they get ahead of it and they put out what they want you to believe Q is first, and they hope that you only see that. And that's one of those things where they give you this ridiculous narrative of what Q supposedly is. And it's like partly true, but partly they try to make it sound just outlandish and ridiculous and even dangerous, as they say, so that you have this like disgust mechanism of, oh my God, there's people that believe this. Oh my God, that's part of the psychological games that they
right,
play with stuff like this.
right. And then just for fun, this is circulating again. And this was when Trump was asked about Q during his first term. It's a very short clip.
At the crux of the theory is this belief that you are secretly saving the world from this satanic cult of pedophiles and cannibals. Does that sound like something you are behind?
Well, I haven't heard that, but is that supposed to be a bad thing or a good thing? I mean, if I can help save the world from problems, I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to put myself out there.
So also, look how silly these people looked socially distanced like that with their mask on.
Yeah. So all these people that ask the questions like that, I guarantee you they are told to do that. They're like,
Right.
you're going to go in there and you're going to ask them and you're going to try to make it sound. The whole point is to make it sound outlandish, ridiculous, and so crazy so that you can demonize an entire awakening, basically, and an entire group of people that learn the truth about this stuff, so that anyone that hasn't learned that yet doesn't ever just stays away from it. And also you have the perfect, like, oh, you can now demonize anyone who starts, seeing the truth of this. So they're kind of like ostracized from society.
Right.
You can make them these pariahs. You can make them seem like extremists, and that's why they kept using around this time the term far right conspiracy or far right extremism or
Right.
all this kind of stuff, because it's a psychological operation, and they would tie Q, or they would always call it QAnon, which is not even correct. There's Q and there was anons on the board. There was no such thing as QAnon. That was a propaganda term of the mainstream media creation only. So anytime you see QAnon, you can almost guarantee that's a hit piece or a propaganda piece, that
Right.
there's
And
not any truth to that.
and what's funny is we weren't even going to cover Q or talk about it at all. But the fact that these people, when they keep putting this misinformation out there, forces us to
Forces us to talk
highlight
about
it.
it.
Yeah, forces us to highlight it and talk about it. Just because it's just seeing that misinformation shared by people we know even, and they're not even doing any looking into it. They're just assuming that the person that shared the post did the research and they didn't. So it's up to us. And if you're tired of hearing about it, then tell all the people to stop trying to debunk it. Stop trying to debunk it. This is Bill Maher apologizes to QAnon. So this, I'm just going to play this video. This is absolutely um, mind blowing in my opinion that Bill Maher is
That
saying
Bill
this.
Maher is saying this.
Right.
What were your thoughts about the Epstein files and 3 million pages being released? And, you know, now we are hearing that Bill and Hillary Clinton have both agreed to testify in the House ahead, you know, ahead of the contempt of Congress vote. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I mean, this is certainly something we were talking in my meeting today about what I'm going to talk about on the show Friday, because it's
Right.
just too interesting. And also, you know, I can't believe I'm saying this, but where does QAnon go for the apology? You know, I mean, QAnon, which believed in lots of really ridiculous things, like, you know, Democrats eat babies.
Yeah.
But they were kind of harping a lot on the idea that the elites are running this pedophile ring. And I mean, I made jokes about them. I also made jokes after the Epstein thing happened originally that were on the idea of, well, you know, obviously there was some smoke there. Well, now with all that's come out in the last couple of weeks, there's a little more than smoke. It does look like anybody who was at all able to get in touch with Jeffrey Epstein, he was the man.
We're doing it.
They just, yeah. I mean, and then they all lied about it. Everybody has, and the arrogance also of thinking they could just use their real name in an email, which they did, and didn't try to like couch it in, you know, when I used to get pot before it was legal, it was like, I'd like 2 shirts, please, you know, and no seeds in the shirts this time, you know, you had to sort of codify it. No, they're just openly talking in emails about this sort of, you know, sexual perversion, and that they were all doing, and lots of people who you didn't think, you know, or I never imagined were doing it. I see these names come up. So, you know, I mean, QAnon, yes, a lot of crazy there, but you know what? You weren't totally wrong about that,
You know,
guys.
So that's amazing from Bill Maher because he was one of the big ones who was really anti-Trump and anti-Q, and he was a loud mouthpiece against it. And then he's flipped on Trump. Now he's talking about, you know what, Q maybe could be right. I can't believe I'm saying this, but but where does QAnon go for an apology? They believed in really ridiculous things like Democrats eating babies, but they were correct that the elites are running this pedophile ring, and I made jokes about them. But now that it's all come out, it's a little more than just smoke. So
Yeah,
pretty
notice how
wild.
they always try to make it as a Democrat versus Republican thing, like, you know, the most superficial level of the system. Like they try to keep it there, like, oh, they're saying Democrats eat bait and make it sound ridiculous. It's like, no, no, no. We're saying a cult that operates in the shadows and has infiltrated everything does this, and they, of course, have their puppets within the government and politics as well,
Right.
but that doesn't mean it's only on that level. And oh, you're saying Democrats are all either, like, they try to make it sound stupid and ridiculous and outlandish on purpose so that they hope you just believe that and you don't look any further, right? This is what
Right.
they do.
And um, if anybody remembers, you know, we did a whole Q webinar, which you can go on our website and find a quick link to it. We broke down the whole Q operation, but one of the big narratives was that if Hillary Clinton got in 2016, World War III would start. It would be World War III. And this is an email in the Epstein files from Tuesday, November 24th, 2015, direct immediately before Trump gets inaugurated. Beginning of World War III question mark. Now this might have been when they still thought Hillary was going to win. Like this might have been right before Trump got in, because I don't know. I just feel like these World War III narratives, if Hillary got in, you know, there were a lot of claims, but this could be proof that why would this just be a random email beginning of World War III, immediately before Trump gets in 2016 when Hillary was supposed to get in. So just an interesting side note.
Yep.
Okay. now on to Bitcoin blackmail. So a lot of interesting information about Bitcoin in the Epstein files, which a lot of people, I don't even know if they were expecting or anticipating that. But this basically, I won't read this whole email, but it basically says, please arrange 1 Bitcoin by 6 p.m. Eastern today, Thursday, 11/22/19 to the Bitcoin wallet address. And they're arranging 1 Bitcoin. They're literally using Bitcoin to traffic children. That's what this is talking about. This is an email that has video footage that we can't watch of Jeffrey Epstein with, it says sex video with a minor, threesomes, underage girl sex video, underage girl, Matthew Mellon video, rape fantasy video, girl from Bay Area, suicide attempt, confession to Madam G. They're literally I don't know if they're trafficking children or the footage or both, but either way, they're using Bitcoin. They're using Bitcoin to traffic this information on the black market. And that's how it started. In fact, I had friends that were involved in the drug trafficking back in St. Louis. I was in the bar scene before I even knew what Bitcoin was, and they were using Bitcoin to traffic drugs and literally mailing drugs through the mail in DVD cases, and they were using Bitcoin to pay for it. So that was even being used at a consumer level like us.
Yeah. And massively on the dark web, And for way worse than just drugs, way darker than just drugs.
Right.
Trafficking
and then
all the rest of it.
I'm going to play this little video I made the other day, kind of breaks down some more of this Bitcoin related stuff. And in this video I made, I actually referenced an email that ended up being fake. And this is a perfect example of how if we don't fact check this stuff, we could easily be sharing fake information. So, and I'll explain which email is fake. It's the one that talks about Satoshi Nakamoto being Epstein, or Epstein being Satoshi Nakamoto. That email is not in the Epstein files. I looked it up myself. I had people reach out to me and tell me, hey, that's a fake email. But I left it up, just, people can use their discernment, but also it doesn't necessarily take away from the video, because Satoshi Nakamoto comes up hundreds of times in the Epstein files. And there's a lot of evidence that basically shows that there's ties with Jeffrey Epstein, and that Bitcoin was basically used for this trafficking. And I'm going to play this video. So as we know, the Department of Justice releases 3.5 million pages of Epstein documents. A lot of the stuff that came out we were expecting, but there were some very interesting things that a lot of us didn't see coming, including this email from Austin Hill, July 31st, 2014, to Jeffrey Epstein, titled, "Stellar Isn't So Stellar." Hey guys, we have obviously seen the Stellar website, and it goes on to say, Ripple and Jed's new Stellar are bad for the ecosystem we are building, and it does our company damage to have investors who are backing 2 horses in the same race. So this is interesting to me because a lot of people are claiming that Bitcoin is the pedo coin, unfortunately the currency that has been financing human trafficking to and from Epstein Island, and I'm sure all over the world. And this could be the evidence that we are looking for, that XRP, Stellar, Ripple is a direct threat to Bitcoin. So that's interesting. Another interesting email that surfaced is this, titled Project Bitcoin. This is a fake email and white paper. Ghislaine, the Satoshi pseudonym is working perfectly. Our little digital gold mine is ready for the world. Funding secured. Jeffrey. So a lot of people are claiming, including this guy, John Savage, that Jeffrey Epstein is the Satoshi Nakamoto account. And he says, by the way, this is why Bitcoin is going down. The insiders already knew this would be released. And one of those insiders is Dan Pena, known as the $1 Trillion Man, who many of you may have heard his famous speech where he says, if you knew who was really behind Bitcoin, you would run as fast as you could fucking sell it.
If you knew who was really behind Bitcoin, you would run as fast as you fucking could to sell it. If you knew who owned Bitcoin or who started Bitcoin, and you had Bitcoin, you couldn't sleep at night. I know. 100%. And when the real founder of Bitcoin comes out, it is my humble opinion, and there's nothing humble about me, Bitcoin will go to fucking zero.
So David Schwartz, if you don't know who he is, he threw his hat in the ring. He's one of the original architects of the XRP ledger. He chimed in on this email and says, I hate to be a conspiracy theorist, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if this is just the tip of a giant iceberg. But what people aren't talking about is just days prior to the Epstein files being released, David Schwartz posts this: going through my stuff when I found this small piece of the moon. Now, a lot of people who follow XRP, we've been saying for a long time that going to the moon means it's going to be the switch that gets flipped and it goes parabolic overnight and everybody becomes a millionaire. Obviously, it's a stretch, but maybe not. And we think posts like this could be comms for something like that coming. But then 2 days later, just before the Epstein files gets released, he also posts, I found my tiny piece of Mars. You're going to have to take my word on this one. So in my opinion, what this means is that XRP and cryptocurrency in general is not only going to the moon as far as a spike in the price, but it could literally be used for cross-planet transactions and as eventually as an interstellar currency. So there you go. That's I could have re-explained all that, but I figured we would just play the video. Aaron, did you have anything to add to that?
No, that was great.
So
But yeah,
I think
the files, like I think you covered in that, like they talk about Bitcoin being created, by, I don't think Epstein himself literally, but his controllers and people connected to him created Bitcoin. And for multiple reasons, to use for all this dark trafficking and dark, their whole network, to be used in the shadows, undetectable, and also, to get everybody used to digital currency, but they wanted the plan was they wanted their digital currency that they controlled, like a CBDC kind of thing. And it was to kind of get the hype out there about it as well and introduce that, and then introduce their system. And as was shown in the files, Ripple, XRP, and Stellar and XLM were a huge threat to that. It sounds like that wasn't part of their plan. They were threatened by it. They're like, wait a second, guys, we already have our plan in place. What are you doing? This is not okay. And then you see the SEC lawsuit that happened, the bogus SEC lawsuit in 2020, and the SEC is 100% deep state, if you know anything, at least it was until recently. That was used to kind of like squash what, XRP and Ripple were doing, and to kind of buy them time to try to get their own thing in place. So then they didn't, like, oh, we don't need it anymore, sorry. And, it didn't work, obviously. But anyways,
yeah,
it's just funny to me because so many people try to say the opposite of that. There's this narrative that gets pushed that, oh, XRP and Ripple are the deep state things and it's centralized, and Bitcoin is the real freedom coin. And it's actually the exact opposite. And in fact, Bitcoin is the most centralized coin. On the surface, it might not look like that, but when you actually look into it, of who controls all the Bitcoin, it's highly, highly centralized, and that's actually the deep state coin.
right. Yeah, we've had people like get mad at us for covering XRP, saying they feel bad for us because we're promoting the pedo coin. Well, now
Bitcoin is the pedo.
The evidence is literally out that it's the exact opposite.
It's the exact
so
opposite.
Again, constantly being vindicated.
Right.
But this is, somebody in
It's
the
like
chat
Dan
said,
Pena said, it's going to go to zero probably when the full truth comes out.
right. And somebody in the chat said if they had any kind of damning evidence on Trump, it would have come out years ago. Absolutely. They wouldn't have to
Right.
create the Russian hoax. They wouldn't have had to try to kill him.
If they've been sitting on this all that time, why did they have to create fake stuff and do all this other stuff when they were sitting on a gold mine to take him down? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, if it was true,
sense?
they would have just used it to stop him and right out of the gate.
Right. Unless you're like, oh well, they were part of the same system. There's that whole narrative, but
Right.
I don't buy it.
Where else I saw something else I was going to chime in on, but oh well. Let's move on. So, pandemic profit scam. So there's evidence in the Epstein files that the pandemic was planned, and it's a big profiting scam. And there's all kinds of email exchanges talking about how they were going to profit off of vaccines, how the pandemic, the propaganda, everything. It was just all. This is all before COVID hit as well. So there's 2011 emails, 2017 emails. It was all planned, and the entire thing was a deep state operation. There's emails that talk about it being created in a lab. Everything about the COVID was fake and planned, orchestrated, manufactured. None of it was real. None of it was organic. It was all an attempt to, for one, depopulate the planet, and then two, take control and push in their whatever agenda that they had in place. But obviously, the whole Trump coming in and the White Hat operation in Q thwarted that effort. And thank God for that. And all these people that want to hate the Q and Trump movement and all that stuff. If I don't think people realize what would have happened if there wasn't an opposing force. You might not even be alive right now. So, and let me click. I forgot what this. Oh, that's just the email itself. So basically, yeah. The Epstein Files X account says more Bill Gates pandemic plans. Epstein Files expose Gates. JP Morgan plan to turn pandemics into profit machines. Years before COVID, unsealed DOJ documents from the Epstein trove reportedly include 2011 emails laying out a sophisticated playbook for monetizing future pandemics. And I'm not going to read through all those emails, but they're there if you want to look it up. And this is one of the emails. Literally, the subject was preparing for pandemics. I say pandemics. Please find attached a draft agenda for the meeting on preparing for pandemics as requested. Let's discuss next steps. For example, how to officially involve the WHO and the ICRC, whatever that is. And then best regards, I hope we can pull this off. And that was in March 2015 that they're talking about pulling off this pandemic that was coming in 2019. So more smoking gun evidence, in my opinion, that all that was orchestrated. Now, gets into some really interesting things. This is absolutely in the files, but it's not, I don't know. This email seems to be kind of out of place in the files, but it's interesting that it's in there. There's an email exchange that talks about Nassar, and then Biden wearing a mask. So one of the things here it says about the quantum financial system, or Nassar at the very end of this email, it says, because although you can't see it, by next April, you will see the world become free from tyranny when Nassar is launched, and some of you may not watch from your couch. Military tribunals start in January. And in the beginning of this email says, now that you know who you are dealing with, the U.S. military, I wanted to resend this over because you see, well, quantum. And quantum actually comes up, and we'll get into that later, but thousands of times, that word quantum comes up thousands of times in the
which is very
emails.
interesting. Yeah.
But this is interesting. It says, who is complicit in crimes and has been expecting this email for 4 years. It's redacted before that. Has been expecting this email for 4 years since I warned him in October of 2016. And because when Japan unifies under common law, well, I kind of think they'd also like to know this story too. This isn't the U.S. only. And just really interesting stuff. But the fact that Nassar is mentioned at all, I find curious. And then this is, again, this particular part of the same email talks about Biden not being Biden. So it says, hint, Biden is not your current president. The mask malfunctions on Biden are getting worse each day. And this is interesting too. He starts off spelling Biden right, but then he continues to spell it with an A instead of an E, which I find interesting. But he says, Biden is not your current president. The mask malfunctions on Biden are getting worse each day. On purpose, this will end badly for blank, who is posing with a fucking clone on Facebook. The dude playing Biden ain't Biden. Real Biden was an evil, sick, angry man who abused children, including his own children. That's an actor with a fucking mask. We've been over this 1,000 times. It's never going to change. Biden is shot. 2019 firing squad. So there's a lot more.
Real quick, it almost seems
Yeah,
like somebody else wrote that section, and then they just copied and pasted, or yeah, the but where it spells Biden differently because it's like it's a whole different like tone and wording when it and then the word Biden is spelled differently as well.
right.
It's almost like they like saw somebody else write something and copied and pasted that section. I don't know. It's interesting. It's like a whole different vibe and different spelling, and then it goes back to
Yeah,
how it
and
was before.
nevertheless, it's in the files, which is why we're
Right.
covering this. And
Right.
if you look at the top of this email, it says maritime law is coming, and the selling and owning of humans and human souls is over. There is factual evidence on the methods of operation for how law and legal proceedings will work next. And it says, I do encourage you to watch the video and understand how common laws are going away. So, blank, quit finding your pussy and call blank, and who has so much info that will incriminate you that when he deletes it, we'll find it on the quantum system that this great gentleman blank has made very clear in the video above. So, just interesting language here. A lot. This is one of the things that's going around quite a bit. And what did I link here? I think I might have just linked just to X post. Oh no, I actually linked. This is where you can find it in the files. So it's all here. There's what 9 pages talking about this in the files itself. And then
So that's like a random person that sent that to Epstein, but the fact that somebody that had Epstein's email, that sent him an email, they had his email, is saying all these things is interesting.
right. So it's like the validity of where this information is coming from. We can't fact check that, but it's in the
Right.
files. And this is just one more time Jasara is brought up. It says, oh, and blank. Did you really think I was so stupid for sending you the $100 payment first? Good luck trying to erase that from the banks because when they knock on your door, that timestamp was running on QFS Nasara Jasara. Let me Google that for you. So this is interesting. It comes up again. And, again, just take it for granted, take it for what it is. And then go look it up yourself if you want to dive into it a little deeper. We're just covering it because we found it was interesting that it was in there in the first place. And then this is a video that you can find in the files that it's kind of a weird video. I'll play it, but the person, Lord Babo on X, is saying that they were figuring out how to look for souls, which if you read that last email, it literally does say maritime law is coming and the selling and owning of humans and human souls is over. So I find that interesting. I'll play this.
In this video, you can see EMP evidence and people using EMP technology, which literally makes them invisible. However, my camera is currently being tampered with and broken into in this video. It just got cut off from technology that the terrorists here are using. These terrorists conduct mind control shootings all over America. And the most recent one in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, that happened last week. Currently, they have frozen my camera. I'm gonna have to restart it again. Today's the date is March 5th, 2020, and it is approximately 10:30 a.m. Right now, I can't remember the exact time. I literally just looked at it about 30 seconds ago, about a minute and a half ago, actually. So they blocked that using brain control, withholdable thought process through brain implant and confusion. As I'm speaking right now, I will have to restart this video over again.
So it's a weird video, but in the video, he's claiming that they can basically humans can become invisible with these certain implants. It literally, what does he say? He says in this video, you can see EMP evidence and people using EMP technology, which literally makes them invisible. So there's technology that makes people invisible. That's interesting. But also there's, people, this person, I guess, is claiming that they're trying to figure out how to look for souls. But this guy is also saying that in real time, they're stopping his video and basically beaming something at his brain that is controlling his brain, making him forget the time, making him lose his train of thought, which I have to be honest, I feel like that's happened to me before in the past doing this podcast. You just kind of lose train of thought mid-sentence, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was a technology that could do that. Just interesting because they start getting into the concept of souls and Stranger Things. Everything that you see in Stranger Things, they're talking about here in the Epstein files. This is Byzantine General on X. What the fuck? Epstein talked about creating people with supernatural abilities by traumatizing them, and also human clones, designer babies. This keeps getting sicker and sicker. So I don't remember if I think this email is actually worth reading. Would you mind reading through this, Aaron?
Sure. 1 second.
If you can see it.
Just
If
the
not,
one
I
on the
can...
right. I can't read the bottom.
No, yeah, the one on the right. It's just a
Okay.
blown up version of the one on the left. Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right. I just shared with you a message that I got from someone that I am mentoring based upon the stages model. Her message popped up as I was about to write to you to see if you were around or knew people here I should meet, and I shared it with you. The caravan trip has been really wonderful in meeting people that are stage 3. These people who are developing a different perspective of reality and discovering the gifts that they have. Also in rallying others who have a strong interest in this area. Among the new projects emerging include a base to use science-based approach and Eastern practices to help sort these stage 3 people out. I understand that you were not happy with the results of the Cuba conference that you funded, but I feel that the work is very important toward helping people identify and recognize the gifts that they have, which may not be accepted or well understood by society today. That is why your support is important to me, and why I'm communicating to you my work, and why I'm grateful for the path that your commitment of funds has given me the confidence to undertake. My intention for sending you the mail is to show that it is relevant work and that people are benefiting, people that would not normally otherwise fit in, and learning to accept themselves, and that abilities beyond what society would consider normal are possible. New models are also possible, such as alternative paradigms group are finding their way, new forms of knowing without knowing how one knows.
Right. So it's talking about this stage 3 type of person who has these special abilities that they can literally they can program to develop a different perspective of reality. And it's just really interesting. They're talking about actually manipulating humans here and genetically engineering them. It goes on to say, am in Paris. This is the reply. I'm in Paris and was about to write you, and it popped up. She is a classic stage 3 in the model outlier who is intelligent, was traumatized when she was young, sexual abuse, and now gradually coming into her own and becoming self-realized, can share our text interactions with her permission, starting to develop special abilities. This trip, we found a lot of stories like this, though she is more on the extreme side given her biological history, had been working with many such people with the model since with good success. Incidentally, she is based in New York City, can set up a meeting if you have interest, blah, blah, blah. So they're just talking about that, and then human cloning. This is from Jeffrey Epstein to Brian Bishop. It says, attached is the document you requested. It's the use of funds spreadsheet for the designer baby and human cloning company. The use of funds spreadsheet for the designer baby and human cloning company. This gets us out of our self-funded garage biology phase into the first live birth of a human designer baby, which I imagine a stage 3 person could be one of these quote designer babies, and possibly a human clone within 5 years. Once we reach the first birth, everything changes and the world will never be the same, much less the future of the human species. Attached document shows $1.7 million a year for up to 5 years, plus $1 million for lab setup. Next steps, I'm happy to hop on a call, blah, 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 get your feedback. They're literally talking about human cloning, and this is in August of 2018. Obviously, they've been cloning humans far longer before this, but this potentially showing Jeffrey Epstein's involvement in that process. And I'm not going to read through this whole document, but this also talks about genetics and ritual murders and the history of redheads, which is really interesting. But this is talked about in the Epstein files as well. From Mario Nawfal on X, he says, Jeffrey Epstein sent bizarre email essay on the history of redheads, genetics, and ritual murders. A June 2013 email from Epstein contains a lengthy, obsessive essay about red-haired people throughout history, which reminds me of the red-headed giants and how they try and squash that entire history that they even existed in the first place, publicly anyway, through the Smithsonian. This document covers the origins of redheads in Africa, their persecution as witches in Europe, where around 45,000 women were tortured and murdered, Egyptian ceremonies burning redheaded maidens, and DNA testing using the MC1R redhead gene. He even referenced ritual murders and in some regions of Africa involving redheaded albinos. This takes on a darker meaning given other documents showing Epstein's obsession with genetics and creating the perfect offspring based on hair and eye color. One victim described feeling like a human incubator for his superior gene pool fantasies. I'll read that again. One victim described feeling like a human incubator for his superior gene pool fantasies, specifically mentioning his fixation on her hair and eye color. This was research, not just idle curiosity. So they were literally tampering with genetics. I mean, it's all here in the files. It's just mind-blowing. And then this guy kind of breaks down the transgender ideologies that were discussed in the emails, and I'll play this video.
I just found something in the Epstein files that literally no one is talking about. It's an email from a man named Robert Trivers, who is an evolutionary biologist, to Jeffrey Epstein. And in this email, Robert Trivers is talking about transgender ideologies. He's talking about chemically changing men and women to make them more sexually desirable to Jeffrey Epstein. He also talks about pushing these transgender ideologies onto children as young as 3 years old. Here is the full email. If you want to read it, you can, but it's pretty disgusting. But anyways, here is a section from that email where it literally explicitly says that they plan on pushing these ideologies onto children as young as 3 years old. So underneath all of the horrible crimes that are being alleged in the Epstein files, there is also 100% proof that they are planning on castrating our little children. Keep in mind, the man Robert Trivers who sent this email is walking completely free, even though he was talking about chemically changing children to be desirable for Jeffrey Epstein. Something needs to change. This is really, really bad, and nobody is being arrested. This is proof. This is not an allegation. This is proof of an email that was sent by this man. Something needs to happen. God bless.
Right, and he makes a great point, which I actually wanted to cover at the beginning, how no one's been arrested yet. All of this information is out. It's just flying around the internet, and no one's been arrested. Obviously, you know, there's an order of operations and there's legal processes and stuff. And we do know that the Clintons are under investigation now. They finally agreed to that. So I think it's going to be a long, drawn-out legal process. As ridiculous as that is, I've been seeing some articles flying around about a bunch of judges being arrested and stuff. I couldn't really fact check it, but I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case. So things have to change in the legal system before these people can be, I guess, quote, legally prosecuted without a corrupt judge protecting them. So there's things that still have to kind of be worked out before we can get that type of justification.
Yeah, and this is so much bigger than, you know, arresting a few people and then the problem solved. That's the thing, like people, it's a fundamental misunderstanding of the problem, in my opinion, where people are upset about certain individuals not being arrested yet. This is a massive sting operation. If you know what a sting operation is, it's where you have a giant, basically criminal cartel, essentially, that you have to do something about. You can't just go in and start arresting people because you're going to ruin the whole thing. You're going to tip off their whole network. It doesn't work that way. You have to get all your ducks in a row, and you have to come at it from a much deeper level and a much more expanded level. And it's a process. And this is the biggest sting operation on the face of the earth ever. That has been happening and is still underway, but it seems like we're reaching the end phase of it now. But it's so much bigger than just arresting, you know, and I get it. It seems like justice isn't being done. Oh my gosh, there's no accountability, you know. but you got to understand what this operation is and what the problem actually is. And once you understand that, you understand why it's happening the way it's happening and why it's taking so long and why it has to play out that way.
Right.
That's just my opinion on that.
And I actually, there was something I wanted to share that I forgot to put in here. Let me see if I can find it. Um, this is a perfect time to bring it up. I'll just read it. Everything you think is happening right now is scripted. Everything that needed to happen already has. This entire year has been nothing more than a movie in place to cause an awakening. Excuse me. Let me get a drink. Oh, I'm just going to start over. Everything you think is happening right now is scripted. Everything that needed to happen already has. This entire year has been nothing more than a movie put in place to cause an awakening. The truth is far too brutal to disclose all at once. There had to be a steady drip for humanity's sake. If you drop a frog in boiling water, it'll immediately jump out. But if you drop it in room temperature, it will heat up and will sit there until it boils. Welcome to the Great Awakening. The water is now just starting to heat up. So in my
Exactly.
opinion, I believe that. I think it has to be gradual in the
We
sense that,
we
for
have to
one,
see, right.
how could
Humanity
you
has to
possibly research it all?
exactly like, and that's another crucial aspect of this is that you can't just clean up everything without humanity understanding the world that they've been living in, understanding what's been happening, understanding the stuff that's been done to them, because there's no lessons learned in that, and nothing you're not going to solve the problem. This we are intricately connected, whether we want to be or not. We are intricately connected to the systems on this planet, because you're living in the matrix, you're living here. Unfortunately, we're a part of this. Our consciousness, we have to. Somebody said in the comments like humanity has to grow spiritually and learn. Yeah, that's exactly it too. It's ultimately a spiritual war, and if you try to do this in the wrong way, you're not gonna solve anything. And in fact, you could just make things way worse and cause way more destruction and chaos than otherwise would have happened. So we're connected to this, and things have to happen in a way to catalyze humanity enough that we take our power back. And I think that's another big reason why things are happening the way it's happening. It's getting us to see what is going on, stop consenting to things, start taking our power back, right? Because we're really the ones in control. We've been the ones with all the power all along. We just have to wake up and take our power back. So that is, when you understand that concept, it makes even more sense why things are happening the way they're happening, in my opinion.
Right, right. And we won't spend too much time on this, but it goes into adrenochrome. Jeffrey Shadow of Ezra shared this on X. The Epstein files reveal a deeply disturbing email in which Epstein requested a massacre of innocence painting to be displayed at his ranch. The message says it was to be rolled out for him to see in the entryway, describing the scene as one where they are killing babies, I do have that email linked, but I don't have to read it. I think you get the point. The email is real. I looked it up. They're absolutely talking about that. The files also mention adrenochrome, harvesting organs, and the underground temple. There's a video I forgot to include in here that is in the files. It's just a video footage of underground tunnel network, which we've seen many of those at this point, but it's probably one of the tunnels that are being used for trafficking, unfortunately. And Liz Churchill, she shared this on X. Horrific. This is one of the emails that says, all you need is a blood transfusion from the pack and you reverse aging. Epstein files, Barry Josephson. Adrenochrome, which is caused by torturing little kids to get their adrenaline up, essentially, and extracting it from them. So this is a video of Jim Caviezel explaining what adrenochrome is. But there's Epstein files that literally talk about the blood transfusion from these children. All you need is a blood transfusion and you begin reverse aging, which is why a lot of the celebrities stay so young and youthful, unfortunately. And this Liz Churchill says Jeffrey Epstein, the child trafficker, was posing as a vaccine entrepreneur. We should be ready with an offshore arm, especially for the vaccines. An immediate memorandum on these products must be implemented now. Moratorium, I'm sorry. an immediate moratorium on these products should be implemented now. And yeah, so it goes on talking about how they can literally profit from vaccines and how they need to store the money in offshore accounts. I read the email. We have a lot to go through, so I'm going to keep going. We're not going to read through all that. But you don't have to take our word for it, but you can take our word for it. Every email that we cover in this episode tonight, we have fact-checked, researched, and found ourselves. And if it's mentioned in an X post, we went and looked for it and found it and made sure it existed before we shared it as fact. So, but if you would like to go read those emails and all the disgusting details, you can. And then this is a video from this girl in 2009. She's a model, I think, and she was basically claiming that she witnessed them eating humans. I will play this video. It's 22 seconds long. And the only reason I bring this up is because these Epstein files completely vindicate people like her.
¡Asquerosidad! ¡Comieron humanos! ¡Asquerosidad! ¡Comieron humanos! Yo no estaba enterada de nada. Que había, o sea, de los asesinatos sí, pero que habían comido humanos. ¡Humanos! ¡Fue de la carne humana! ¡Comieron humanos!
So,
¡Asquerosidad!
whatever she was involved in, I think she's a model. So back in 2009, 21-year-old model Gabriela Rico Jimenez shouted this on camera right before being taken away. People called her crazy, then she vanished. Years later, Congress drops the Epstein documents with claims describing the very same behavior. So what really happened to her and who made her disappear? So this is in 2009. People have been trying to literally tell us. And unfortunately, it took for these files, like we knew the whole time, and we believed in this. We saw the evidence the whole time. But the masses out there who have no idea what's going on, and most of them probably aren't even going to look into these Epstein files, but at least it's there now. And and I still see people trying to say that half of this stuff is a conspiracy. So I don't even know how to help somebody like that at this point, but all very interesting. Time travel in the secret space program. So this is this gets into a whole other thing that we weren't expecting to see in the Epstein files. So there are a number of emails on time travel, like we mentioned earlier. This is one of them that seems to be popular and going around right now. This is from June 20th, 2011. Sent, we don't know from who, to Jeffrey Epstein. Actually, we don't even know, to and from. We should explore the biological consequences of time travel. It would be amusing to calculate the rate of evolution of a population or a mutant that can travel in time. Like we said, there is a whole thread of emails on time travel, but also when you talk about things like the secret space program, time travel is directly involved. And Patrick Riley, he put this tweet together that we'll go through here in just a minute, but he said, if you think that you're aware, or if you think that you're awake and know what is going on in the Epstein files or what happened with Bitcoin, XRP, or Pizzagate, I promise you that you still have absolutely no idea what this is all about. Where do you think the missing children went? Disclosure has already been happening since the 90s. Try not to miss it. So he's talking about, which he actually briefly explains this in our documentary, about scientists and other high-ranking individuals, even within the military, being brought to Epstein Island to be read in to these secret programs and then blackmailed to never talk about it. And there's a lot of military connections, which he goes into here. But we'll get into this next email about the more about time travel. This email to blank from Jeffrey Epstein. This is from Epstein. He said, your physics needs a booster shot at the horizon of black holes as one crosses the boundary. In fact, time and space exchanges behaviors notes. There are both charged and non-charged spinning, non-spinning BHs. Wormholes allow faster than sea travel. New experience allow time travel to the past. However, time is still only defined by the vibrations of cesium atoms, only as a parameter not satisfying to Jews. Interesting. Our friend would argue that your thoughts travel faster than C, predicting the near future, obviously back in time, with the inevitable distortions upon recohering. So goes on to talk about time velocity and physics and all this stuff. A whole conversations about time travel from Jeffrey Epstein. Why would they be talking about that unless they're literally working with this stuff and there actually happens to be a secret space program that is working with time travel and reverse engineered technology? I did look up UFO, I did look up anti-gravity. There are thousands of emails talking about all of that stuff. And just go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, exactly. And this one is Epstein himself saying this. This is an email from Epstein, not to Epstein. So that's also very interesting. Like this is him saying all this.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And but it's like why? I mean, obviously they were involved and that's Patrick Riley's big thing is saying like these children that are missing are being trafficked off planet and they're using reverse engineered technology to do so. And you don't have to take Patrick Riley's word for it. He is a 16-year combat veteran in the U.S. Army. Stephen Greer came out and recently said they are using reverse engineered technology to traffic children. He didn't say to traffic children off world, but he said they're using reverse engineered technology to traffic children, and he has absolute evidence of it. That's a statement from Stephen Greer. So we're talking about something far beyond just trafficking children to islands and other places on Earth. This could be literally the basis of or the foundation for something like a secret space program where all this technology is being developed in secret.
Exactly. Somebody mentioned Arizona Wilder and David Icke interview. Yeah, that's another person that's vindicated by all this. Arizona Wilder and another person I thought of, Kathy O'Brien, is probably
right
being super vindicated right now after, they tried to smear her, call her crazy, and, same with Arizona Wilder and anyone who comes out with their experiences have over the years come out with their personal experiences with all this horrific stuff. They tried to just call them crazy or liars, right? Or delusional in some way. Well, it turns out it's all very real, and they were absolutely telling the truth. Not that, we all knew that, or we all know that now, but many people don't. And that's a part of this, the wake up that needs to happen. And that's the whole point of a lot of this disclosure, is to wake up the sleepers to the reality, the world that they've been living in, and get them to start taking these whistleblowers seriously when they blow the whistle and when they tell their experiences, and stop dismissing them outright just because they're told to, right? So that's another point of this.
Right. The somebody is making fun of the way I'm reading. Yeah, sorry, I'm not a professional out loud reader. I've never this isn't what I signed up to do in life. This is just us trying to disclose the truth. And I don't know if you try to read online in front of hundreds of people while you're live. It's not necessarily the easiest thing to do, but
no, it's not.
Thank you for highlighting that. Listening to me
But thanks
trying
for
to
the
read
insults anyway.
Right.
Thank you.
Anyway, yeah. So this next email is actually an unclassified FBI investigation, and it's talking about sex trafficking, but it talks about time travel as well. And it says the reported use of cyber torture to gain access to her personal thoughts to find and take children. Also stated that she was kidnapped in the Bermuda Triangle, had mental illness, and people were using time travel to steal from her. Young was identified as the culprit. Anyway, it goes into saying that reported that Epstein's group was still active and blank was the ringleader. So we're talking about time travel, Bermuda Triangle, kidnapping, trafficking, Epstein connections. This is wild stuff.
Yep.
And then this is just an email that says time travel with an attachment that we can't click.
Yeah, it just says time travel, and then there's an attachment, a PDF attachment. So I wish I could see what that attachment was, but just the fact that they just labeled the email time travel, I would assume it's something to do with time travel, which is interesting.
Right. And then this is Patrick Riley's post. Just wait until you find out what the Epstein blackmail existed, what the Epstein existed to protect. Yeah. What the list existed to protect. He goes, or did you think Stephen Hawking, Musk, Gates, Sergey Brin. He goes on to list all these people um, got entangled with Epstein with no relation whatsoever to their fields and disciplines. So he's claiming that these high-level scientists and military experts, like I said, were all brought to the island to be blackmailed, and a lot of them didn't necessarily want to obviously go to the island, but there's blackmail involved, as we said, and he just kind of connects some dots here. And the symbolism in the patches, including Stargate SG-1 and this guy, Air Force General John Raymond, nominated to lead U.S. Space Command. He's claiming that everybody's involved and is aware, but not anyone can really talk. So, yeah, these people were blackmailed. And then this is our friend Arkim Ra, who did some great research digging into the Epstein files. And he basically, I think he put a YouTube video that said, "Congratulations, you've reached the end of the Epstein rabbit hole." But his video is kind of going viral, and this is a clip from that video that I find absolutely fascinating. So we're going to play it and just let you guys decide, because this is some wild stuff that kind of ties directly into what we were just talking about.
Here's what's at the bottom of the Epstein rabbit hole.
Congratulations, you've made it to the bottom of the Epstein rabbit hole. Pay close attention. Jeffrey Epstein was on the board of directors for an organization called the Lifeboat Foundation. He was also on the board of directors for an organization called Teachers in Space. Look them both up. They actually exist. They have websites. They don't even try to hide what they're doing. The Lifeboat Foundation builds giant underground cities, okay? They openly advertise it, and for a fee and with an application letter, they might accept you to join their little society where they apparently have whole cities underground. They also advertise being able to take the clients off-world in the event of a catastrophe. And it's really interesting because Teachers in Space also talks about taking payloads off-world, which is all really weird, right? It gets even more interesting. You see, Donald Barr was the one who inducted Jeffrey Epstein with zero experience into the Dalton Institute, where he was a teacher. Donald Barr wrote a really interesting book called Relations in Space about an aristocratic elite trafficking children into space. Are you following me here? What's even weirder is the district attorney that was supposed to prosecute Jeffrey Epstein and bring him to justice was literally William Barr, Donald Barr's son. Now, the Lifeboat Foundation is really interesting because in 1996, they pioneered wireless money transfers. They're the second organization in the world to ever do this. This is a decade or two before Bitcoin even was a concept, right? So you got an organization that is doing wireless money transfers that are untraceable, large sums of money, and they're building giant underground infrastructures. It gets even weirder. I found out through looking on archive.org that Lifeboat Foundation has a homeless youth outreach program. And they used to have a whole station in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, and a whole board of people. They're all out of the Rhinelander, Wisconsin area. And they had this meeting in 2017, a homelessness problem-solving meeting, right? So you have an organization that's interested in homeless youth, interested in wireless money transfers, and interested in underground infrastructure. I don't know if you guys heard about Sasha Riley, but he's telling the truth. He was trafficked by the Epstein elite. He was in snuff films that he survived, but he witnessed people get unalived. And what I'm telling you is it gets crazier. The reason why Epstein surrounded himself with the scientific elite is because he was doing human cloning and he was doing consciousness transferal and stuff like this. I swear to God, I know this gets crazy, but it's true. And what I'm telling you is he had celebrities down there. He had a cloning center down there. And I know because I was in some of these films. They're on the dark web. I'm in films on the dark web, okay? And what they're going to try to say is it's all AI.
So, absolutely crazy stuff. I think he's 100% onto something there. This goes much deeper than what we're seeing here on the surface. I think what we're getting is something that people can grab onto. A lot of the stuff that Epstein and that whole ring was involved in are things that are not supposed to exist. And so somebody said, there was an email. We did have a guest. They asked about one of our guests that mentioned the very first episode of Stargate showing the real Stargate in the series, in the episode. That was Dan Cooper, I believe, maybe, or was that, I don't remember who said that, but I do remember somebody claiming that on our show. Could be possible. We know that actual military generals and officers played their parts in the show, and that show was done with full military support. So that's interesting.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it at all.
Right. Also, this is another interesting aspect in the Epstein files, fake spirituality. That's just my term for this. But the Dalai Lama met with Jeffrey Epstein and is mentioned in the Epstein files at least 169 times. I don't have any of those emails linked, but that's interesting in itself. And then Deepak Chopra is also mentioned like hundreds of times, a lot. In fact, there's even conversations with Deepak Chopra about anti-gravity and stuff like that too, which I found interesting. But unfortunately, some of them from Deepak Chopra are these. I'll just read these emails very quickly. These are directly to Jeffrey Epstein. Come to Israel with us, relax and have fun with interesting people. If you want to use a fake name, bring your girls. It'll be fun to have you. Another one. God is a construct. Cute girls are real. From Deepak Chopra to Jeffrey Epstein. Interesting. This other one says, meet me at class 9:30. So many hot girls. Promise. Harry, New York City. 30 between 6 and 7. Then we go to matcha. Okay. Promise an abundant of young pussy, flesh, love. Subject Kundalini. So these are just disgusting, and there's a lot of them. And this is, somebody who wrote a book called Total Meditation Practices.
And it's insane because when you read his books and you hear what he talks about, it's like this is like the exact opposite. It's like clearly his public persona is one thing, and then behind the scenes he's a completely different person, which is, we've seen that before, right? But it's always a shame every time. And I mean, he's usually as big of a name as that. If he didn't start out compromised, it's like at some point along the way he became compromised. And I know he promoted the jab during the last recent years. He told everyone to get it. I've heard multiple people say that they've met him or seen him behind the scenes, and he's not a nice person at all. They're like, he's nothing like what he shows in the public. He's actually a very not nice individual. So all this kind of lines up, actually, which is a shame because a lot of his teachings are spot on. I have some of his books, and they're fantastic books. If you didn't know it was Deepak Chopra, it's all like spot on stuff, and it's great. But it's a shame that all that gets tainted, and I think that's done on purpose too. I think that's probably done on purpose to steer people away from the true wisdom and spirituality and this true, very, good stuff. It's like, oh, well, we'll come out with him as a pedophile and as this horrible, disgusting person, and then no one wants to ever read any of his stuff, and they just, they kind of have, it's like guilty by association with the content kind of thing, oh, I don't even want to look at anything like that because look at Deepak Chopra, look at the Dalai Lama, like, oh, now I just got to throw out all these spiritual concepts. So that's kind of how the cabal operates. So it's very very real.
And it's an attack on spirituality ultimately.
Absolutely.
Yeah, knowing that this was going to come out, like inevitably this was going to happen. I mean, it's like Bill Maher says, it's amazing these people are just using their real names and stuff, not even like the arrogance of them thinking that this would never surface. And now here it is, and now these people have to answer for themselves. And this isn't some online theory. This is the Department of Justice website that is just exposing this. So, and then we're almost done here, guys. About to wrap this up as far as the slideshow goes. Well, kind of. Jeffrey Epstein claims the universe is a simulation. This is a video of him talking about this, a very long interview. But this is just email about him talking about simulations and how the universe is a simulation. And we don't have to read through all this stuff, but that's exactly the conversation that's being had here. 3D simulation of clonal evolution. Colors mark genetic mutations. Subclones, local migration distorts time-space. I mean, I don't know who, okay, we know Jeffrey Epstein was this Israeli spy, right? But it seems that he has an education. I mean, you have to if
Oh
you're
yeah.
understanding the physics and the quantum physics behind time travel alone. But now you're talking about simulation theory, and like some of these emails are all in codes and they're talking physics language, and it's hard to even read,
He was a
so
right, he was a very intelligent individual, as you can, as you know, is evident in a lot of these emails. Like, yes, I mean, he was not a good individual, but he was a very intelligent individual, and and beyond the mainstream normal way, like he understood all these concepts and things that it's funny because these all get demonized or discredited in the mainstream as like pseudoscience or fringe or whatever. And then and by the same people that control the mainstream media that control Epstein, and here he is talking about them and in a very real way. And it's just funny how they play both sides, right? This is what they do. So publicly they'll say one thing, and then behind the scenes they're practicing the very thing that they try to discredit publicly, right? This is what they do.
right. Yeah, absolutely. And then this is quantum shows up 1,279 times. The word quantum, if you just look that up. But there's so many conversations about this technology, and you can spend days, hours, I mean, months probably looking into these files. There's millions of pages. I mean, we haven't even probably scratched the surface of some of the stuff that people are going to dig up out of these files. And what is this one? I don't remember. Oh, it's just an email, a description of them talking about quantum computing. Um, I guess I'll read through this.
Well,
I
real
don't,
quick before you do that, somebody in the
yeah.
comments said he wasn't intelligent whatsoever. You guys you're completely misreading it. He was a middleman. He was efficient and evil. That's all. Well, yeah, he was a middleman, but I've actually seen interviews of him talking, and he is straight up. I mean, unless you can say he's reading a script, I guess it's possible, but he sounds extremely intelligent in those interviews. You would never know if you didn't know he was Epstein or anything about him in that way. You'd be like, man, this guy's spot on. Like this guy's nailing it. Like he's super intelligent. So I don't think that's true. I think he was groomed, to be very intelligent, but I think, yeah, he was evil as well. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. If you actually do research on him, it does appear he was intelligent, but that doesn't mean you're not a POS, right? Or you're not, a very sick, twisted individual, which he absolutely was, because he was a part of this bloodline, cult and this system, of course, and being used in that way. But I think him being that intelligent was a part of his, he had to be to not had to be, but I think they knew it would help him to accomplish a lot of his missions, right?
Right.
So think about it. Somebody that's not intelligent trying to do what he was doing, being a spy and being a guy getting compromised on people, like you could compromise, you could bumble your missions if you weren't intelligent. They're not going to risk that. They're going to want somebody that, yes, they control, but they're going to want somebody that's also very intelligent as
Otherwise, you'll have
well.
this. Otherwise, you have a situation like Biden.
Right.
Like
Right.
he can't. They couldn't trust him to complete a sentence.
Right.
Um,
Exactly. Exactly. So I have to strongly disagree with you there.
right. Somebody said you guys are so wrong about Bitcoin. Well, it's not even us. It's literally in the Epstein files. So the Epstein files must be wrong about Bitcoin
Right.
because
I,
it's
I
literally
guess those files were
all the evidence
wrong.
is there. Um, you can not believe it if you don't want to, but if you really feel like just we gave you the website, you can go to the departmentofjustice.gov/Epstein files and you can type in Bitcoin and you can read it all for yourself and literally prove to yourself that Bitcoin was being used to traffic children and was created to
Yeah.
traffic
And I'm
children.
sure that's what Dan Pena found out, and that's why he made that statement a few years back.
Right. So, I mean, we're not wrong. That it's literally in the
It's
file, so
not
we
it's
can't
not
be
like we're
wrong.
just coming up with theory, like, or we're
Right.
just, we're just believing things that come across. Like we're like we do our research. I don't know if you've watched our show before. And these files, it's literally in these emails. It's telling you. It's literally they're telling you about the truth about Bitcoin. So you can look at it yourself. Go to justice.gov/Epstein, search Bitcoin and look at what it says for yourself. Look at it.
Right. Totally believe that about Bitcoin makes so much sense. Anyway, I'm not going to read that. That's just talking. It's just them talking about quantum key encryption, quantum computing, synthetic intelligence. I mean, these are just the kind of conversations they were having. Um, and then this is a side note, but this is a perfect example of a fake email that's going around. So on the left is a tweet, an ex post. For the first time in history, the Super Bowl will be televised in every country in the world on February 8th, 2026. This has never happened before. Clearly, the EBS is coming, and they want every country in the world to have access to the emergency broadcast system. So that's a whole theory in itself. People are claiming that during the Super Bowl, there's going to be an EBS test because there's been hints of it coming, over the past weeks, including the Super Bowl 60 logo, which has all the colors of the EBS system. Interesting, we covered that on the last episode. Now, on the right is a completely fake fabricated email, kind of like the one that I talked about earlier. They made it up. So what we're looking at here is the whole subject of the email, the heading is actually real information. Everything except for the word nuclear that was added. And then the body of the email is completely fake. I looked this up. I tried everywhere. I typed in all the keywords. I could not find this email. I looked on the comments. Everybody else in the comments is claiming this is a fake email. The email says, "We need to discuss World War III. The investors want to know if we are still planning February 8th, 2026. Please be advised that I'm on vacation until July 29th. I will be attempting to be quote unquote off grid." So that's a fake email. Somebody just created this and put it out for clickbait, and they're trying to promote a World War III fear campaign narrative that something's going to happen during the Super Bowl. I only share this just to show you guys you cannot believe all of these files that are being shared, especially a lot of them about Trump. You got to go in there, type it in yourself, look for those exact keywords, type in the dates if you have to, find it. And if you can't find it, then it's not in the files. And then it's a fake email. And we have to do our due diligence covering this stuff because the waters have been muddied and it's a mess out there. It's the Wild West. Like I said earlier, you cannot just believe everything that you're seeing shared. Even if one of your favorite influencers shared it, fact check it, go look it up yourself. Now you have the tools to do this. You don't just have to take our word for it or anyone's word for it. The information is there. Over 3 million pages of documents. And this is the times we're in right now. And it's absolutely insane. It's impossible to keep up with. And we just felt like we compiled some of the more interesting stuff, but it goes much, much deeper.
Exactly.
And then I found interesting. This was posted literally 1 hour before we went live or somewhere around that time frame. The White House posted on X, "We are going to rededicate America as one nation under God." And there's a little video that plays with it, but interesting that they're going back to that because we've gone away from any spiritual, religious, or God, believing in God in general aspect of our country. In fact, many whistleblowers have said that their whole entire mission is to destroy any evidence of God that exists, which is why they destroy our history and our past and rewrite it.
Because you can't be controlled if you understand and know and believe in a higher power, whatever you want to think about that, you can't be controlled because you don't submit to the governments or, control systems without, you have a true moral foundation and a true spiritual foundation. That's the last thing they want. So atheism, actually, if you do your research, atheism goes hand in hand with like communism, and communism is a cabal creation, or they pushed it at least. And they want as many people as possible to be atheists and to not believe in anything other than the material realm, basically. That's all they want you believing is the 5 sense material realm. And David Icke he's talked about this for decades. They want you locked into the 5 sense reality and thinking that's all that exists, so you can be very easily controlled and siphoned off of and manipulated.
Right.
So Trump's basically saying we're getting rid of that and we're going back to a spiritual, foundation for our country and ultimately the whole planet.
Right. So there's a video here we're going to play. It's 14 minutes long. We're going to close out the episode today with it. It's very interesting, but it pertains to how really Israel and the Zionists are behind all this. And the guy who shared it, well, I'll get to that in a second, but just referencing this tweet from Ian Carroll at the beginning, remember, every single crime documented in the Epstein files was done on behalf of Israel. They want you to focus on the scum that abused the girls. Remember that every single act of abuse was part of an Israeli blackmail ring founded, funded, and designed for Israel to gain control, and it worked. So, this Harrison Smith, that's his name, he shared this a few days ago, and he said, I might get killed for posting this. The least you could do is watch it. It's gotten 7.3 million views on his page, and it's been shared everywhere. I watched it, and it's very damning to the Zionist agenda and what they've been doing and what they are continuing to try and do to us and the entire planet. And to me, this is really highlighting like the core of where the deep state lies, in my opinion, anyway. So if you're ready, we'll go ahead and play that.
I think there's another revolution coming. I tend to steer it along with the achievement of a broader peace. When history is within reach.
So what Israel is fighting here is not merely a seven-front war, but an eight-front war. For the Jews against Rome. Rome and Jerusalem clashed over values with a great tragedy for the Jewish people. Well, we lost that one. I think we have to win the next one. But the new Rome, the United States, Jews against Rome.
We stopped playing defense and have moved to offense.
The weapons change over time. You can't fight today with swords. That doesn't work very well.
But we need the kind of genius that manufactured Apollo gold pagers and infiltrated Hezbollah for over a decade to prepare for this battle.
But we have to fight with the weapons that apply to the battlefields in which we're engaged. And the most important ones are the social media.
Because the next war will be decided based on how Israel and its allies perform online as much as offline.
This is the eighth front, the disinformation campaign.
It is actually this eighth front where our enemies believe they can actually defeat the Jewish state.
This is the kind of ingenuity and inventiveness that have always been a hallmark of the state of Israel, that have always been a characteristic of the Jewish people. I know we can do it.
A lot of this is done with money.
Invested billions and billions of dollars in the information battlefield.
Money of NGOs, vast. Money of governments, vaster.
We prohibit harmful stereotypes about Jewish people, such as claims that Jews control financial, political, or media institutions.
You're damn right we're going to cancel them and deplatform them.
We monitor them online, social media, messaging apps, video games, cryptocurrency.
Hitler admirers, Stalin admirers, Jew haters.
Podcasts, short form video, Wikipedia, LLM.
American haters, Churchill haters.
We monitor these people and we share the intelligence with the FBI.
You think your stupid little podcast is going to change the world like hell it is?
Social media, this is the new battlefield.
You don't get to wrap your psychotic, mental, unhinged Nazi.
We do not allow Holocaust denial and distortion.
And the most important purchase that is going on right now is
TikTok.
TikTok, number one.
For every 30 minutes that someone watches TikTok, they become 17% more anti-Semitic.
So you have TikTok just smashing our young people's brains all day long with video of carnage in Gaza.
We really have a TikTok problem.
Because anything that we try to say to them, they are hearing it through this wall of carnage, and I sound obscene.
Anti-Zionism is just Jew hatred.
We made a change.
We updated our policies
to designate the use of the term Zionist
to recognize that the term Zionist
as a proxy for a protected attribute
can be used as a proxy for Jews and Israelis
as hate speech.
Why can't Israel be doing some sort of, counterintelligence?
Right now, the ADL is co-writing Sunday school curriculum.
Information warfare like this.
It's building the technology to train the LLMs more effectively.
Like psychological operations. in America.
As part of a robust framework to combat anti-Semitism, we have industry-leading policies designed with the safety of the Jewish community in mind.
You're right, we control the media. So what are you going to do about it? You're going to bitch on Twitter? Like, okay. Meanwhile, we're going to control more of the media.
And working with OpenAI, with Alphabet, with Anthropic, with Meta, with Microsoft, we are working with them now to train the LLMs.
We also have, I think, over 24 Jewish organizations that are constantly feeding us intelligence and information.
So number one, we measure and track. Number two, we monitor and disrupt. We have a whole apparatus. I have 40 analysts working full-time, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, monitoring extremists.
Monitoring campuses, digital networks, activist groups, and public officials.
We have several PhDs on staff. We have a network of academics and scholars we work with around the country.
I've talked to the leaders of AI in the world, and you ask yourself, there's so many blessings in this, but there could be a curse.
First thing a country needs to do is to unify all of their data so it can be consumed and used by the AI model.
We need to invest in intelligence to understand who are the anti-Semites, who's funding them, what's their plan, who are the leaders, and then once we have that, we can define who is an enemy we can attack.
You have to take all of your healthcare data, your diagnostic data, your genomic data. We have to take all of this data we have in our country and move it into a single, if you will, unified data platform.
Once we have all this information, we need to empower and mobilize an ecosystem of many organizations that we can incentivize them to work together, to share, and to fight against our common enemies.
Mobilizing millions of people, of allies that are quietly by our side.
Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on.
You know, anti-Semites, most of these people running around, we're not going to win their hearts and minds because they don't have hearts and they don't have minds. So, you know, how are we going to, there's no reason to think we're ever going to convince them, but we can deport them, we can put them in jail, we can make their lives miserable, we can cut off their funding.
You've got all these conspiracy theorists online going on and on about how, you know, if you try and say anything, if you try and do anything against Jews, they're going to come after you.
We have featured more than 1,000 anti-Semites.
And they're going to destroy you and take away your business, and therefore you have to be really, really scared.
These Jew haters have faced real consequences, including firings, suspensions, and expulsions.
And it's kind of starting to become true.
We will shine a light on you that will follow you for the rest of your life. When you look for a job, when you look for a spouse, when you look for a nanny, when you look for anything.
And I love that. I love it.
We remove hate speech against Zionists when these harmful stereotypes about Jews are invoked.
In the past 12 months, ADOS filed more lawsuits than in the prior 112 years.
Over the weekend, I received concerning news that I was being sued for $5 million.
Vicious, communist, racist, Jew-hating, Israel-bashing monster.
Defendant frequently posts anti-Israel rhetoric accusing Israel of controlling the United States and its politicians.
We at the ZOA will fight these dangerous and monstrous lies with all of our hearts and souls. No appeasement, no conciliation, only a war against this racist hatred of the Jewish people.
When there is a war, it doesn't matter who your enemy is, you need to destroy their offspring to prevent them from creating more offspring.
What you try to do is you want to corral your victim, but in fact, your countries are the victim. So you dehumanize a group of people in human society, and you prepare them for the kill, for the butchery.
A government can do in 2 months more than any organization can do in its lifetime.
The J7 is comprised of the 7 largest diaspora communities. We meet every other week via Zoom to share information, to share best practices.
And we're running everything all the time, from focus groups to attitudinal surveys to randomized controlled trials to identify what interventions work most effectively.
Finally, we have meetings that are some off the record, some on the record with world leaders, in which we share our community's concerns and call for action.
The entire education system in this country, from K through 12 and colleges, must be reformed.
But
It's time to limit the First Amendment in order to protect it.
The way we solve anti-Semitism is pretty goddamn simple.
Take control over what they are saying.
Send their ass to jail. It's not complicated.
And quickly before it's too late.
We're monitoring political Islamists and Christian nationalists, all of them. And then we train. We're the largest trainer of law enforcement in America, extremism and hate. We train 20,000 officers every year.
Try that again.
We're here because of the comments made online about the Jewish community.
We deeply value our partnership with law enforcement. We've been working with them literally since the FBI was founded in the 1930s.
Okay, so is that your account?
That guy who consistently calls for the death of all Palestinians, that can probably incite somebody to do something radical. That's all we're here to talk about, I would think, to refrain from posting things like that.
We are going to have a whole division within the office of the Special Envoy to combat anti-Semitism that is going to work on technology.
We must take all of our technological expertise and all of our available resources to develop methods to launch and win a significant counter-information campaign.
The products of our technical capacities and sometimes technical and intelligence genius, and we're happy to do it.
The office is going to be revamped entirely to be one of the highest profile offices in the State Department.
Because it's not working. Too many young people have never heard of the Holocaust.
The only solution right now is for the governments to decide that all the Jews are a protected minority. That means that the government will be obliged to provide the security.
Upgrades to security. Jewish community shouldn't have to be paying for it. But we have to pay for our own armed guards? Are you serious?
To fund institutions, culture, and that everybody in Europe will learn about the Jewish contribution and why they should cherish Jewish presence.
All your synagogues, all your shuls, all paid for. Everything that you need is paid for. I, for one, as a Jewish leader, will no longer talk about anti-Semitism in isolation from Israel. It's what we want immediately. If you ask any Jew, what do you want? What do you want? No more protests. No more protests.
I'm not an anti-Semite. I just don't like the government of Bibi Netanyahu. No, you're a Jew hater.
Would a group be banned if it accuses Israel of genocide or apartheid?
If those criteria are satisfied, then that is the case.
Any candidate running for a seat in this building, whether for Congress or Senate, we will target them as they target us. Accordingly, we will start a fund to help their opponents.
Beginning already in Q1, hedge funds get set up in Israel so we can become another capital of finance. I'll argue we will beat London within a short decade as the second capital of finance. It's going to be New York as a gateway to America, Hong Kong a gateway to China, Dubai a gateway to Southeast Asia, and Israel as a gateway to other parts of the world.
So we heard earlier about a mission, a goal to bring 1 million immigrants to Israel.
History has proven that when a country starts with allowing anti-Semitism, the results are not kind to that country.
I want to make a warning to somebody else, and that's American Gentiles. The minute your country is taken over by anti-Semitism, the minute you start to be a country that's not blessing Israel but cursing Israel, you have begun the process of shrinking away from your empire.
And you can decide, you can stay here in New York in a declining empire, or you can come to Israel, which is part of the rising middle of the world, which is moving south and east. That's what I encourage you to do.
Our faith in the American project itself has been shaken. The only serious answer to this challenge is to believe again that being Jewish is the most important thing in the world.
When we're kicked out of America and America, the whole thing is done, the whole American Jewish project is done, we're gonna be fine.
For decades, American society allowed Jews to live normal lives. This was a pleasant holiday from our destiny. The holiday is over.
The Western culture that stands against the Jews is going down. The West will survive only if it decides to love itself and if it decides to love us, the Jewish people.
The Jewish people are not normal. We never really were.
And now that Israel has turned the entire geopolitical situation on its head, our job in the diaspora is to leverage those wins and win here. Do to our enemies here what Israel did to its enemies there.
And to the world, I say this: history will not remember those who merely denounced hatred in polite language. History will remember those who acted.
This is a small bunch of wannabe Nazis. That's what they are.
Anti-Semitism is pure evil.
If we have to hunt you down the way they hunted down Nazis for decades, we will find your identities, we will find you, we will achieve justice.
I think we're at the cusp of a new age, because I think that we will achieve the expansion of peace. I think that we are in a new age because I think that the possibilities of technology, with their risks, especially in AI, but with their positive benefits, are enormous in every field. I mean, from agriculture to health to transportation to, and I think that we are together, we can lead this and become not a secondary power, but a primary power.
Well, if that doesn't just break it all down for you, I mean, it's pretty disturbing.
They're telling you.
They're telling you. We know if
anybody,
what
they want to do.
If anybody asks you who's controlling the media, there's your answer.
And by the way, it's Zionism. It's not. They use Judaism as a shield. It has nothing to do with the Jews outside, the normal Jews, the good ones, that are just normal people trying to live their lives. This is a very dark cult, essentially, that uses Judaism as a shield. They have nothing to do with real Judaism. They use it as a shield, so they're not even Jews at all. They're Zionists, which is Luciferians, essentially, or, you know, like the Rothschild is from, you know, it's from those bloodlines that we all hear about. And they are embedded in power, and this is part of why the cleanup's taking so long, because they're embedded in every single power structure on the planet.
And as the Epstein files exposed, it's massive, it's extensive, and it's potentially even off planet at this point, and has been for years. You know, so next time somebody asks you who controls the media, you can show them this video. Who's censoring you on social media? You can show them this video. I mean, this is damning. It says it all, and it goes down to bloodlines, and the bloodlines, like the entitlement of these people is hilarious to me. Like I can't even imagine living with that much hatred inside of you every day and thinking that it's righteous.
Well, that's how a cult operates, right?
Right.
It's they have this twisted ideology. And your cult is the righteous one, the only righteous good ones, and everyone outside of the cult is beneath you, and or even the enemy, right? So they fully believe, these people fully believe they don't believe they're human, by the way. They think they're a whole different species. They think and you know, I think there might be truth, they might have some other negative ET genetics, you know, going on, and you know, they know that, or some people there know that, and they're like, oh, well, we're the gods, and that means we have the divine right to rule. And not only that, but they, you know, the term goyim, which, by the way, search the term goyim, Goyim, in the Epstein files. It'll come up a ton of times. See what is in there using that term, and we are all the goyim. Anyone outside of their group is the goyim, and then they're like the chosen ones, according to them. And anything they do, you know, anything negative they do to us, they see as a good thing. They see us as like these worthless cattle to be just disposed of and done. You know, we're meant to serve them, and they have all these twisted ideas. They tell you all the time. They say these things, and if you look at the Epstein files, it's massively talked about in those files.
And we're the Muggles.
That's their ideology.
We're the Muggles in Harry Potter.
Yeah, but way darker than that. Like,
well, no, they look at us. No, we're the Muggles in Harry Potter are the sheeple. Like they're the
right.
human. Like, yeah. So the bloodlines in these secret societies in Harry Potter, these wizards, they look at the humans as Muggles, as sheeple. Like,
but they weren't actively trying to kill them and torture them and traffic them. You know, that's the difference. Is what I'm saying. It's darker.
Right, but they view them as less than.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, so the Talmud, which is, many Jews dismiss. They're like, no, we don't follow that, but these people do. That's their book. And if you look at what's in the Talmud, it's some of the most disgusting, dark, satanic stuff you'll ever read in your life. And they talk about goyim and that as being, use your imagination. And there was actual photos of Epstein that came out recently that you see the Talmud, which is multiple books, by the way. There's this whole line of books behind him. That's the Talmud. He has it in his, like, I guess it's his office or whatever that is.
Right.
So that's what these people believe, and that's who these people are, and that this is part of the evil that's being, the dark that's being cleaned up right now and transmuted by the light that's coming in and by the ascension that's happening.
It's quite literally a battle of the bloodlines, according to them. It's about keeping their bloodline in power, and feeling like they are gods in the sense that they are entitled to this planet and everything free. As you watch in the video, they don't think they should have to pay for anything.
These people despise humanity. They despise everyone outside of their group. They have nothing but pure hatred for everyone else, which is 99.9%. Even the Jews, they call the Jews, the normal Jews that aren't Zionists, they call them lesser Jews. And they'll treat them a little better, but they just kind of view them as pawns to be used for their gain, essentially.
Right.
And they call them lesser Jews. So even other Jews that aren't in their little cult, they despise as well. And there's actually a lot of Jewish people that understand this, and they are very against Zionism. And you'll see them out with signs and like are talking about it all the time. So how could it be anti-Semitic or anti-Jewish if you literally have tons and tons of Jews that are calling this out and against it, right? And by the way, the whole Semitic thing is a lie too. They're actually not Semitic at all. And that's why, like DNA tests are illegal in Israel. They won't allow it. And that's because then there's a risk of finding that out, that they're not even Semitic at all. They're not even real Jews at all. They're actually these Khazarians, these group that originated in Eastern Europe, that goes back a long time ago in history, that with a satanic, I mean, it probably goes back to the Anunnaki, right? But it was like a satanic cult, essentially, that they got kicked out of 109 countries at least, because they kept doing these evil things everywhere, and they were forced to adopt a religion or face consequences. So they picked Judaism as the religion to adopt, but they were like, oh, well, good, we'll hide. It'll give us a perfect excuse to hide within a major religion and keep doing what we're doing. And that's essentially what happened. And then we can use that as like, oh, we'll say you're a Jew hater if you say anything, if you try to stop us or call out, these evil things we're doing. And that's, as you saw in the video we just played, they're still doing that today. And you see the genocide happening in Israel and all the horrible things there. Well, that's why that's happening. Right. And they want it very public. That's why they're not even trying to hide this stuff. They want the rest of the world to hate them, because their whole their belief system is that in the end days there will be a great war when it's like them versus the rest of the world, and they want to rise out of the ashes of that to rule, basically, from the destruction of 90% plus of humanity gets killed, and then they rule what's left over and enslave the rest. This is what we hear about with the cabal, right? Well,
right,
that's what this is. This group is, and there's like other, the Jesuits are tied into this as well, and the Vatican. It's really all the same group that hides behind different front, like Freemasonry is tied into it as well. Like,
right.
Those are all more the surface, like Judaism, Freemasonry, Catholicism, Jesuit. Like, it's really none of those things. It's really this satanic cult that operates its tentacles through those things, right? And uses the other people in those organizations that are completely unaware of this as a means to an end, right?
Right.
So just wanted to clarify that if anyone gets the wrong idea from watching.
Yeah, but absolutely. Thank you for doing that. Great history of all that. A lot of that, I mean, you're well versed in that. I'm not as much, but I appreciate you sharing that and clarifying that, even for myself, because it's very complicated. It's convoluted. It's not black or white in any shape or form. And it's it just needs to be understood from a much deeper, higher perspective. And I think that's kind of what we're trying to do, is just explain to people like there's more to this. Like, I don't even think, like, there's millions of files that were released. That's probably not all of them. Absolutely not. There's probably much more that involve like off-world trafficking and stuff like that. I would imagine they just simply that's their baby they're protecting. That can't get out, you know. And there's other aspects to it as well.
And there's a higher power that is, you know, they like we'd already be enslaved right now if they were actually fully in control. And well, we're just powerless and there's nothing we can do about it. That's what they want you to believe. So that's the big psyop they try to do with humanity, and especially if you start going down these rabbit holes, they want, you know, the people waking up on that level to think, oh, they're fully in control and there's nothing I can do, and get in the fear, right? Because then you're getting in that fear energy, and they want as many people as possible in fear and these lower vibrational frequencies, right? So that you can be enslaved and manipulated. So don't get in fear, because we are so much greater than all of this. You know, we are connected to God and the divine, and they are too. They just, you know, they're living in a massive distortion, and you know that their incarnation on this planet, at least in where they're at currently, but they're still like technically we're all connected still, right? So don't go out and try to like do anything stupid or like, you know, because whatever you do to anyone or anything outside of you, you're actually doing to yourself. And that's, you know, the concept that these people don't understand. Otherwise, they wouldn't be behaving this way, right? So they're generating their own karma, and God is going to deal with that. You have to just focus on becoming the best version of yourself and embodying the love frequency. And if you do that, you know, you're going to be all right. And that's what humanity, I think, is moving. We're moving into that energy, right? And they're not going to be able to. That's why it's being exposed. That's why the Epstein files even. That's why any of this is coming out in the first place. Is because.
Yeah, exactly.
This is happening, you know, and they're losing
power. In my opinion, that video we just watched wouldn't even be going viral with millions of views right now, unless we're at this point in history where they're losing their grip. And that the fact that video of them out there, like, just, you know, bragging about their power and, you know, gloating about it, I think that is evidence that they're losing power.
But their arrogance is also their downfall, which, by the way, is in the key drops, right? Their arrogance is their downfall, and saving
Israel for last.
And saving Israel for last
makes a lot of sense after seeing all this now.
This is why Israel is being saved for last. Now it's become blatantly obvious, right?
Right. Yeah. So anyway, thank you guys for joining us tonight. We know this went a little long. We're over 2 hours now. There was a lot to cover, and we could have gone a lot deeper into a lot of these subjects. It's you know, it's a lot to put this stuff together and present it. So we appreciate everyone who stuck around, and we appreciate your love and support. We can't do this without you. Please share this video with your friends and family if you found it valuable. If you are interested in joining us in our next conference in Hawaii, April 20th, right around the corner, there's still a few spots available. You can go to our website, journeytotruth.online, and grab a ticket there. We have virtual passes available as well. If you can't make it in person, and if you're interested in watching our new Secret Space Program documentary, it will be hitting streaming platforms in a couple of months. But until then, you can watch it on our Patreon, which is linked below or available on our website. The movie is called A Lifetime of Silence Behind the Green Door, a case for the Secret Space Program. It's getting some amazing feedback. We've been working on it for 3 years, and it's finally out, and we can't wait for everyone to see it. So if you're interested in that, you can find that link below, and you can watch the movie there. And I think that's it. I don't know if there's anything else. We've been at it for a while tonight, so we're going to go ahead and sign out. But we love you guys. Thank you for watching. And until next time, have a great evening. Good night.
Good night, guys.